We're going to talk about creating preliminary plans to optimize site site design. Sorry about that. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to talk about mainly today is the word optimize and optimization. What is that really? How can we use it? A lot of it's how is it going to benefit us as we're going forward. So feel free when I do want to go through and type any questions as you go along. I'd love to answer questions. I'll do a bigger section at the end, but every so often, if Katie sees something really good that goes along with what we're doing, please type it in then. That way it's easier to address at that point. So the first thing is, what is optimization? One thing I want to say, this is a word I think that gets overused a lot inside of engineering and design, especially. It's a simple thing. It's an act, process, or methodology of making something as fully perfect, functional, or effective as possible. Okay. First off, let's think about one thing I hate about that definition is the word perfect. Perfect is something that we almost can never make. So we want to get as functional and effective as possible. Okay, this is what we do as designers, engineers, architects. We try to take a problem and we try to solve it and do the best job possible. But here's where we run into a lot of issues. It's time and money. The tools we have don't always allow us to look at the most options, the most scenarios. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but when I had a company, there's a lot of times I could see a better solution or potential of one, but what I couldn't do was afford, based on budget or time, to go look at that alternative. Because if it didn't work out, it was a delay in the project or the client wasn't going to pay for it. So we had something they were happy with, and we went forward with that, which was not always the best solution, but it made people happy. But we want to make them happy and give them the best solution. So what we got to look at, and this is what we're going to do today, is how can we think about this process, and are there or is there a software to help with this? And I'm going to show you one called SITEOPS. Again, a lot of softwares use optimization. One thing I see out there is some of the softwares that have it, not everybody takes advantage of it. We're going to talk about it today, and I'm going to show you an example near the end where actually somebody was able to do that and help out a client a lot. So real quick, what is the optimization process? This is pretty simple. We need to define a problem. We need to collect data on this problem. We need to analyze it. Now, again, this is more of a general term. When they mean analyze, we're going to start looking at it, processing it, making decisions what to do, and then we're going to improve it. And I'm going to show you and talk to you today about especially the improving part. This is where optimization really takes in to what we're doing is we're going to improve the project by allowing optimization of properties, areas, and objects help make our design better for us. And then, like anything, we want to control that. And as we tighten the controls, we have to may do a new definition to the project, maybe not. When we have to collect more data, maybe not. Now, think about this when you're doing a project. Normally, this is stuff we do all the time. I work on a project, client comes and would give me a subdivision, for example, I need to design. I would go out and look at the standards, figure out what the problem is, figure what we're trying to do. I'll collect data, find some topo, flood maps, aerials, GIS data, again, whatever I could find to start getting going. I would analyze it, and I would start making my first design. And as time went on, and again, as much time or money I was allowed, I would improve that. And then we would basically give it to the clients, we control more. But we're going to do this a little bit different. In optimization, a lot of this stuff's going to be done between the computer and the designer. So this will make a little more sense as we go along. So just think about this. We're now going to not look at 3 or 4 designs. We're going to look at the potential of millions of designs in the process of doing a project. And we're going to use the software to help do that. So real quick, this is a reality modeling workflow. Again, this is based on site because that's the product I'm going to talk about today in optimization. This is something, if you've seen, talk about setups before, you've seen this. I'm not going to go completely through it. But there's 3 products that work inside the reality modeling workflow for site. And that is context capture, which allows you to go out and use drone imagery and things like that to create some really cool existing 3D models. We're going to drop it into SITEOPS, and we're going to do our design in this area, and then we want to take it out for visualization. Part I'm going to talk about today and what we're going to look at is the optimization inside of this region. This is probably the most important part where optimization can help. And it doesn't matter if you're doing a structural project, a site project, a building, a school, it don't matter. Trying to come up with the best decision in the design phase is what makes a project go or not go. It's successful or not based on how we come out of concept and go into plan production. That's where we need to put the most effort to make sure it succeeds. And this is where I'm going to show you optimization is going to help you do that. And one other beauty about this workflow, especially the one you're going to see today, because optimization relies on interacting with computers and databases and going to a higher level of computing, it also makes it a lot easier to do revisions because we're going to change a lot less things and let the computer do a lot more work for us. That's a really cool thing. It's more about being an engineer, being an architect, being a designer than it is about being able to push keys and move your mouse to draw lines and curves. And that's what we're going to go through in just a little bit when we actually look at how to use SITEOPS and how it would work for you. So before we go in, start playing with SITEOPS and looking around at it, I just want to quickly bring up something I've shown in previous webinars. I'm going to use this as part of what we're going to work on today. This is an image and a sheet that I've shown, and I've had a few people say, how did you actually create that? So, you know, when I was coming to this webinar, I said, this is a good time to answer that. How did I think about optimizing and looking at multiple site designs? Went through millions of grading iterations. That's what we see on the bottom. We'll get a little more detail of that in a few minutes. How do I go through all this information, all this data, and how can I do this in 20, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours? That's what we're going to look at, and that's what we're going to try to understand is what and how do these pieces react together, and how to think about this a little bit different. A lot of times when we've designed in the past, we spent more time thinking about how to draw it, how to offset, fill it, trim, do a grading feature line, do something like that, more than we actually did a design that we need to look at. So again, we're going to use this same project, and we're going to go back and look at how we got to this point. Because let's be honest, every client is looking for basically two things. They're looking for a layout that works, or a design, again, depending no matter what it is, and a cost that works. So one thing, optimization, a lot of times, depending on, again, the type of optimization you're doing, the one I'm going to show today, is based on cost. Because a lot of the clients, hey, it could be a great design, but if it's over budget, how great is it, right? If they can only afford $2.5 million to build this site, and two options that they maybe really like are 2.7 and almost 2.8, great, but it don't work. We're going to go with the one that's 2.4. But the only way the client knows to do that is we have to run enough iterations of creating this site or creating the design to be able to handle information for them to make that decision. And that's where optimization comes in. And being able to optimize a plan will allow us to not do one or two layouts. Because think about it, if I'm spending most of my time drawing and labeling and doing things like that, I'm not spending most of my time designing. Yeah, that's why I said let's us become designers again. I'm going to show you how, through optimization, I'm going to let software start helping me be a better designer by allowing me to look at more options that I already see in my mind. I just have no way to get it on the screen quickly. So let's go into this. I like to spend most of the time actually showing software, moving some pieces around, because one thing about working some of this optimization software, it's really easy. It's not hard. So I'm just going to go in, click my login button. In this case, SITEOPS is, you click it, we go into the web. We're going to just log into a project real quick. And I'll be right into my system. Let's go to administer. Everything's stored in the cloud, or I could store some stuff locally. Let's just go in. We're going to make a new project. And sometimes, one little thing that I've heard a lot of our users of this type of technology say, sometimes optimization is not just a project, it's my time. Being able to use it most efficiently, looking at it, moving it, trying to use it in a process to best benefit my clients, my team, my firm. So again, one of the things they like about this is the speed of being able to grab and do things. Oh, sorry about that. So let's go in and we're going to work on a project. We're going to work on the one that we had earlier. So let me go get some information to get started. This project was near Burnbury, Australia. And if we zoom in, I'm going to open this up just so we can see it a little better. It's right down here, just south of Perth. And the project we looked at was a company who was wanting to put a refinery on this area right here so that they can put it over to pump it over to the cargo tankers for taken out for distribution. So the project we're looking at, let's just bring it in about right here, is this little piece. You can sort of see the property line edge along the top, around the corner, into there. So I'm going to select this location. We're going to go out and grab some information. We're not optimizing yet. Sometimes, remember, it's all about, in that process, some of it's about collecting. So I want to go in and grab some imagery. We'll just grab this real quick. Let's just zoom in a little bit so we get a little bit better image. I always like to get the best image that I can. If you notice when I zoom in, it has layers of detail, and I'll just say okay for today. And I'm going to turn off, if I let it, it'll act like Google Earth where it has all the whole area around there. I don't necessarily need that. I want to work just in my little region, so I'm going to come in and turn off the Esri layer and be left with just my image. Now, one thing I want to do, if I do have existing topo, existing boundaries, existing anything, use it. You can import, again, tons of information. But in this case, I just want to grab an SRT and gives me a rough shot at the topo for basically the whole world. Not just an area, but the world. It was from a satellite mission done a number of years back. So we can see we have contours. So let's just turn that layer off, make things a little clearer. I'm going to take the image down just a little bit, and let's draw a boundary. So let's go back to optimization. Optimization, again, is about looking at multiple scenarios, running things really quickly, but accurate. Again, you cannot give up accuracy. You cannot give up precision. That's still part of what we have to do. So for the ones who haven't seen SITEOPS, I see a few people on here, welcome, that have seen SITEOPS before. Let me just give you a quick little overview of what we mean by optimization and technology, and then we'll do something. We'll talk about how we move and edit things to look for better results. So SITEOPS is a little different than most tools that you'll see out there. So let's just do something very simple. This is the easiest way to always show this type of technology. If I drew this in any CAD tool, I'm looking at 4 lines with an area that is called parking, or it's on a layer or level called parking. And that's usually about the extent of it. Inside SITEOPS, we work a little bit different. Because we're going to optimize, we need to have areas and objects that work with a surface 10 that can break things up and create areas to work from. And from those areas, I can assign properties. Parking space requirements, grading requirements. So if you look on the right-hand side, that area, this is what it means. It can be 1 to 4% in grading. What material type is it? If I change the material type, it may change the surface depth. So I grade a subgrade. But the green box doesn't help anybody. I need to actually see the layout. So here's a first shot of optimization you're going to see in this type of technology. I'm going to hit the layout button, give it just a second, and most of y'all should see 1,093 parking spaces. Now here's the beauty of SITEOPS. In this case, its job is to give you the most parking spaces it can on the area that you're there. It's optimized. It's not looking for 1 or 2. It's looking for tons of different scenarios. So if I move something, we can actually see it changing to look, how can I optimize that area to give the most amount of parking spaces? Now, again, this is a really good thing because for most of us, again, delivering the client a cheaper cost, if I can do a parking lot, the least amount of asphalt I use, the least amount of cost. The least amount of asphalt or area that I'm using usually means the least amount of dirt I'm using. Less potential of walls, and all those other kind of things start coming in with this. So if I can start designing areas to start maximizing my yield, in this case it would be parking spaces, then I would get a better result. So let's drop in a building. We'll do something really, really simple. So let's just do a building. Now a building, again, can be brought in footprints from other tools, AecoSim, ABD products, Revit, MicroStation, CAD. It doesn't matter. SITEOPS works with everybody, but you're going to note, I'm going to try to do this sort of slow because I know through some of these webinars, it can get a little slow on their end. But I can come in and quickly do a design. Now, well, something happened, and this is a really cool thing as well. When you're using intelligent software similar to SITEOPS that we don't get in other CAD tools, and this is just sort of a byproduct, but it's really neat. I'm going to make an error happen. And y'all should see red dots in the parking spaces. This actually has the ability to go in and say, you know what, you've got enough room for a space, but you do not meet your drive aisle requirements. So I can either tell the system, you know what, you're just a computer. I'm going to override you, just software, ignore the problem, and add those spaces in there because this is what I want for this area. Or I may just come in and say, you know, you're exactly right, I don't even want parking spaces at all. So let's add a quick little drive just to connect something, because somewhere along at the end of the day or the hour, I've got to design, and the client always wants to know one major question, again, what is that ultimate cost? I'm going to be able to do this now, and I'm going to be able to do it really quick, because think about grading this. Again, this is a simple design. There's nothing from an engineering architectural standpoint, there's nothing here that would say, wow, this is difficult. What it is to grade this is time consuming. And to figure out what is the best FFE versus the slopes in the parking lot and the roadway and the tie-in, again, just time consuming. But if we go to the upper right, now this is where optimization probably in SITEOPS shows its best. Imagine this. I got to look at clearing, seeding, erosion control, cut, fill, retaining walls, not retaining walls, asphalt, curb, gutter, sidewalks, cutting the subgrade, topsoil, reusing topsoil. I got to look at all these things all at one time. Now, we can't do this as humans. Just impossible. We take our scenarios, we pick and choose what we pick, we start with, and then we start whittling away at it little by little till we get a design that we like. In the upper right, I'm going to click another solver button, and we're going to let this pop up on the screen in front of you. We're going to roll over and zoom in a little bit. So what you see now is red is cut, blue is fill, yellow means little to no elevation change. Now again, this wasn't a very big site in the lower right-hand corner. I'm going to start this up one more time. This is how fast they can do it. Look in the right-hand corner. The numbers are changing. Again, on your end, usually not really fast. On my end, it is going really fast. What it is doing, it's actually looking at how can we build this site and not just meet my constraints. Similar to the parking, if I can't meet the constraint, it'll give me a message to have a grading error, give me some ideas of some paths to be able to go and solve that problem so I can make the site work, or I have to redesign it for something else. But what it's looking for is the cheapest cost of construction, because that's ultimately, again, what the client wants. The client wants a design that works as cheap as possible. So that's what you're going to be able to do using optimization. Again, this is a small site. This flew through something in just, what, a matter of seconds. It ran through probably around 10,000 grading plans that quick. Because, again, it's not complex. Imagine doing, I mean, I've seen people do 2,000-3,000 lot subdivisions that would take weeks to grade. They did them in an hour. So that's how fast you can do something. So let's look at this site. Let's go back and recreate this just a little bit different. I'm going to show you some of the other little power that we have in this software. So let's just, we got to work with the client. They gave me some basic things that they need. So we're going to set this up real quick. They need a pad. So we need like a big service area. And they wanted it 157 meters by 125. So we're going to bring this in. I'm going to rotate this around. We're going to match it up. Just like that. They wanted it roughly somewhere in this area, and we'll move it around as we get going. Then they needed a pit inside of this that would actually house the tanks. Again, we're going to sink that below grade. Just again, part of this is being able to maneuver how far do we go below to make things happen work. So we'll just do, again, another rectangle, and we'll make this one rectangle. We'll make this one 60 by 54. In this case, I'm just going to go in. And just for now, I'm just going to align. There we go. And again, I'm just doing this by freehand just for speed because we only got about 30 minutes total for everything. So I'm just going to throw this in real quick. In reality, of course, you're going to take more time, be a little more precise in what you're going to do. So they want a couple buildings. So again, I could use my tools across the top. I'm still old school. I still like to type a few things. So I'm going to do 76 by 45. There's the main laboratory, office buildings, things like that. Again, I'm just going to come quickly. We're going to just shift this over, and I'm going to align it. And we're just going to, just for what we're doing, we're going to move it out. And then we'll just do that for now. Let's add 2 more buildings. I'm going to add a little bit more and some parking, and we're going to be done. Let's just add 1 more building. That'll be good enough. I want a 22 by 30 service building over in this region. We're just going to freehand rotate this. And let's move it. All right, so now we have an existing driveway. I want to go ahead and tie the road into that existing road and that intersection right there. So we can come into a drive. And I'm just going to come in, tie it straight into that area. All right, now what I got to do, again, this is the part about analyzing, understanding, improving. I got to be able to tell the areas what to do. Again, computer software doesn't know ultimately what you want something to be. You sort of have to tell it. Now we have some tools, for example, for building, it'll go ahead and automate the process of telling an area it's a building. In this case, I have a big concrete pad that I want at 1%. I want it to be out of heavy concrete. And there we go. And it automatically changes my properties for me. Let's go along all sides. And I do not want curb on this. Now I want to go to that pit. I'm going to tell this I want it flat. Same thing. Let's do a little, actually, just so you can see the difference, let's make it a different material type. Gravel. Again, we wouldn't do a pit in gravel, but let's just do it so we can visually see a difference. Go to all sides, no curb, but here's when we'll make a change. I need this to go down and dig a hole. I'm going to tell it, let's go down to -3 meters. And immediately it's going to pop up, use wall as cost. We could do that. We could leave it off. Let's say for this one, I'm going to take the wall cost off because it'd be part of probably a different cost item building this. The other thing I want to do, I want to come in real quick. Let's create just a really fast. Let's create a parking lot. Let's just offset this line. Let's come in, close. There's my parking lot. And let's go to the front of the building. Let's say I want some parking on the front of my building. Let's add a quick little driveway. I can just come in. Let's just tie it across this way. There we go. Let's go in. Let's just put one more other area. Well, we'll do 2 more. Let's go perpendicular. Let's go across. We'll just eyeball this. Just trying to do this for speed, time. What we're doing. Maybe this case it's not heavy. It's going to be light concrete, or yeah, let's do light concrete. Again, no curb. Let's do 1 more around this area. This one I'm going to be a little more tying into other areas. So I'm going to show you another little tool that we have called cut. I can now come in and let's just move this area down until we get a 90 in the back. Let's cut this area by this one. Let's cut this area. Stop the solver. Here we go. This way we can match up areas exactly. Again, we need to have a certain level of accuracy, certain level of detail. Now in this case, I'm going to come in, just tell it again. Let's go say 2% and heavy concrete. So at this point, I got something started. I could actually go in and say, now, let's lay this out. And we're looking at about $1 million. We still have other things that needed to be added in to get to those numbers we saw previously. But that quick, I was able to do something. Again, imagine we having more time, we could go through some more scenarios. Now, here's where we can start really optimizing. This is a really nice thing about a system like this. Is I have this in. I could actually come in, start grabbing bits and pieces. And I just want to tell it, you know what? Let's make all this, and let's just keep that there for now. Let's make all this one piece. I want to group it. So the client says, what if we look at it in the middle of the project? All right, well, let's move it. In this case, let's fire up the roadways and the layout and everything else again. I'm going to have to move the driveway entrance. We're going to move this down. I got to just quickly move all that. I'm going to come in and move. But the only thing I really got to do is go back and reshift the roadways just because their connection points stayed the same. But let's say the client was happy with the layout that we had. I can actually go back and grade, and now we're at 1.1 million. This is, again, taking optimization to a different level. I'm going to use my skill set to now start moving around and optimizing the location. The software is not going to be able to optimize what's the best location. It's too much aesthetics, things that you can't put into a software from a knowledge base. This is what we do as designers. This is leveraging our expertise to be able to deliver a better solution. So, for example, let's just open up one of these already done. Let's go in and let's go to option 1, for example. This is how you're able to go in and perform these tasks in under an hour. You can add ponds in different buildings and other areas. So if you look, for example, here's number 1. This is what it looks like as it's going through a process like this of how to grade and how to do exactly what I want. But the beauty of it, again, was I could just come in and quickly use my knowledge as a designer to come up with a better solution to meet the client's needs. Now, there's another one thing I always like to show, and I love to show this before I get out. It has nothing really to do with optimization, because I still believe part of the speed of optimizing, part of the speed of doing something like this is delivering those models faster. Gives us also more time to maybe look at doing something a little bit different, especially on the delivery side. And one is visualizations. So when I talked about that Lumen RT software, one thing we do is we allow you to put in Lumen RT models. We have them loaded up for you. I'm not going to go into a lot of this. You can look on past webinars and see where I've done whole sections on SITEOPS and Lumen RT. But I did want to show an example of these are lines and curves, and I can export this out to my favorite CAD tool and create 2D black and white drawings all day long. Great. That doesn't help the client a lot of times. A lot of times the client has to sell the project to people who are not engineers and architects and designers and construction people. They have to sell it to financial people, just people off the street, communities. To do this, you can actually export to Lumen RT. And inside SiteOps, I can place cars and automatically put them on the parking lot and put trees around and things like that. Because what I would much rather deliver my client is a little 2D layout, a budget, and this. This is a 3D model. I can go out and I can present to the client. I can take videos. I can do all kind of different things. Turn on some really cool resolution so that it looks good. We can see somebody walking around the plant. This is the kind of thing we can start delivering, again, within that simple time frame, to not just deliver them a couple more designs, but deliver better detail, better understanding of what exactly it is they're going to get for the money. Can the project be done? Again, this is the benefit of using optimization, because it's going to allow me to leverage my time to do something else and give a better product in the long run. This is, for example, a lot of times I've talked to people, and I've had it myself, where I get into this part and realize that I don't like the way I design something. In 2D, it looks really good. In 3D, it just doesn't make sense. It's not really what I think the client was wanting. So I'm able to, again, to give that level of detail.
Hey, David.
Yes.
We have a question for you. We have someone that came in a little late and said, sorry, I came in later, but can you go over the parking lot grading using the profile command?
That is something I could go in at a later date, but we don't actually do parking lot profiling grading. That we do not do. Okay. So let's jump back in, get back to what we were doing, and we're going to look at again, we're running up on our time, so I want to make sure I get everything covered. Let's go back and to the PowerPoint, and I want to show what we're looking at from an actual user case as to how they were able to solve a problem. Now, this one was done a couple years ago, and I still like showing this because this was a great use of optimization, and it was also something that would have never, ever been able to do without having this ability to look at things very quickly. Now, this was a problem with a school that was already designed up in North Carolina. Little Diversified did it. They had not been SiteOps users very long, but the site had already been planned. You can actually see it was in a color drawing at one time. On the left's the CAD drawing. They'd already worked out the school. Everybody was happy, got funding. DOT gave them access, so they thought they were all good and ready to go. Went to get the budget for construction. Like a lot of things, because they take so long to get funding and everything else, they were not good to go. They were a couple $100,000 short. School system didn't have it to catch, and nor did North Carolina. So they said, you know what, we got a new software. Let's see if there's anything we can change. Now, the problem was they couldn't change the school. That was set in stone. And there's nothing they could do about that. But they could move the ball fields. And there was a lot of grading. If you look at the topo on the left, you can see a lot of severe grading to create these ball fields. So let's go in and figure out if we can do a better design. So over about 2 days, and the beauty of it, they used the software a number of years back. It took them 2 days. Now this is probably more like 4 or 5 hours. They ran through 50 design scenarios, moving things around, coming up with different configurations, hitting the grading button, getting results, looking for the best ones to take in front of the school board. So here's the set, what they called their second look. Now, if we look on the left, they reduced it from, go back a couple slides real quick. Initial budget was just over $1 million, $1,009,180. They've now reduced it to $697,000 by finding better field locations, better way of, to some level, balancing the project. And on the right, they gave them another schematic. Said, hey, here's number 4, but there's an issue. The school board had 2 problems. One was, it's always a quirk in every project, almost all the school board members had a grandchild that was going to go to this elementary school, and they wanted to be near the weekend athletic fields. The parking was on the north side of the school, so they wanted their grandchild's playing field nearest the parking. You always got those. And the other one was, if you look at the bottom underneath each budget, there's a field separation at the little identified. And they thought 24 and 18 feet between the fields, even though they were far enough apart, that was a little drastic. They said, you know what? We like the design on the left. Everybody could agree to that one. But we want the 8-foot separation that's on the right. Now think about this. It's a simple thing a client wants to know. Can we do this, right? But if we were to do this, you're talking about in a traditional way of drawing, you're talking about going back and doing this for hours, day, 2 days. Again, depending on your skill set, maybe 3 or 4, to come up with a scenario you're not even sure if they want. So what they did at Little is they threw this in real quick, said, let's look at this problem, and here we go. It's not that it's a bad design. It was what the client wanted. It just wasn't the best. The difference is it went up to $1.138 million. Gave them everything they wanted. And that's what we want to do, right? As designers, we want to give our client everything, but we also want to make sure we inform the client that that's not always the best decision. They spent less than an hour to get to this solution. Less than an hour. Not days or weeks, so they gladly did it for the client. And this is what they ended up doing with the school. They had the initial scheme. They ran through a second look and said, can we save upon what we've already done? Then the client come back and said, hey, I got some requests, and they went and did a third look. Said, yes, we'll look at it for you. School board picked exactly what most of us figure, the best design at the best cost. Saved that school system $311,000 and actually got the project back under a little bit under budget. And that's what they were able to bring to the game. Now, one thing I want to talk about, technology like this is proven to win you business. Now, I want you to look at just something simple so you can get an idea of where I got this. You see the colors are orange and blue. If you look at the lower right, Bentley's colors are green and blue, and I try to do my presentations to match. The presentations, other than the outer part of the PowerPoint, is from their presentation. This is what they went and showed other school systems, their other clients, and they started winning like crazy, going, look, if I can do it for them, I can do it for you. I invested in technology. I went and looked at what I could do best for my clients, and I'm going to deliver you 50 designs. I'm going to deliver you the ability to make a choice on what you want because I have a tool that allows me to look at this. I'll have something that's going to do optimization. And that way, you can look forward. So, little saying, greatness sometimes requires to look beyond conventional solutions. We are so set. And I'll be honest, I was one of these for years as well. I even taught at the local community college. CAD, CAD, CAD. That's the way we do things. And think about 40 years ago, especially for some of us older ones. 40 years ago, somebody sat in front of some draftsman that was doing it by hand with a computer and said, hey, this is the new way to do it. This is better. And somebody went, nah, that ain't the right way to do it. Still going to do it by hand. Well, you know what? The computer eventually was right. So now we're taking this to the next level. It's time to start working with models, reality modeling, doing this optioneering and using optimization to help us go further. Because if we have the model, let's use it to its fullest potential, not just for visual, not just for some level of constructability. Let's look at it here. Let's peek behind the curtain and get going forward with what we're allowed to do with it. So for today, I'm not going to end with a conclusion slide. I'm going to give you a challenge. If you don't believe this works, for the ones on here who are not SITEOPS users, but you are a Bentley client, go to your fulfillment center. There's a free trial. Just go to SITEOPS. Once you install the little couple meg installer, you'll see a login page. Hit free trial. Just give your name, company, email. You'll be good to go. If you are not a Bentley client, you're an Autodesk, 12D, somebody else, or somebody don't even use any of those type of tools, just email me. Nice and simple. David@siteops.com. It'll get to me. Email me, and I'll send you the information to get you logged in to get your free trial of SITEOPS. Because again, for the ones who saw me moving things around, I always hear, it looks so easy because you've been doing it so long. No, it looks easy because it is. The hardest part of using SITEOPS is making sure you understand what it means to design. And that's going to be that way with a lot of tools. You have to know what you want. And as long as you got that skill, which most of us do, that's what we're in the business to do, the software falls in place. So let's answer some questions.
Okay, David, we have a question. Does SITEOPS being web-based, how is security handled?
Okay. SITEOPS is encrypted. So any of the data that goes back and forth to the cloud has encryption in there. We do have certificates for anybody that needs to see these. They are hosted in servers. We do have, if a user wants to store something locally and then just delete it off and bring it back and forth, it's a little cumbersome, but we do have some people that like to do that. But we do have security as probably our most toppest important thing, because if your data gets out, you'll never use us again. So therefore, your trust in our security, we put that above anything else. So again, just let you know that there have been no breaches, knock on wood, in 10 years, and we don't see that any are going to be there because we have so much security involved around being web-based like we are.
Okay. Another question. Can SITEOPS use Revit files from architects?
They can't use a Revit file directly. And the reason we haven't really supported it and we don't want to is Revit files will come in. It's a great tool. Love Revit. But it comes in for SITEOPS too much detail. Okay. What I'd want to bring into SITEOPS is I want to pull out the base plate, the outer shell of the building, and use that. And you can export that as a DWG, XML, again, a number of different ways you can come out of Revit with it. But if I drop in the Revit building itself, so if they've got a building, for example, and they have doors and windows and pipes and all this other stuff, all you're really doing is making a file bigger and bigger and bigger for no reason. It's not of any, the toiletries are no value to SITEOPS. So therefore, what we tell users is get the base plate, the outer shell of the building, do that and bring that into SITEOPS. And then actually what you do is we take that to Lumen RT, then I could bring in my Revit model into Lumen RT and set that on top of the base plate itself.
Okay. Where do I access these Tech Talk recordings for reviewing again at a later date?
Okay. You can go out. There's a number of different ways. One of the best ways is just go out to YouTube, and Bentley has a site page there. But just go, or I tell most people, just search in Google SITEOPS video, and it'll take you straight to our YouTube page, and we have tons and tons of videos and testimonials out there for you to review.
Okay, another question. Could you possibly describe the design constraint possibilities with the roadways you dropped in? Are there default horizontal and vertical curve constraints?
Okay, there are not truly what I call default. This is a user-based system. So for example, if I want to go in and set my K values and my tangent requirements and everything from a vertical standpoint, from a roadway and a profiler, which we do have, yes, you can do that. And then I can set horizontal constraints as well. So you have the ability to go in and define that roadway. Now, the one thing I will say is just so if somebody's going, oh, wow, it'll do like a major interchange or high interstate. This is not DOT level roadway. This is, basically local roadways to residential to, commercial parks, that lower level, not high speed where we need super elevation. But you do have the controls to by all means do it. And the really neat part is if I'm in a profile and I change one road, it knows another one's attached. And let's say I'm in a subdivision and I change one road for a creek crossing. I raise it. All the other roads that are affected by it will change automatically, and then so will all the building pads and everything will change based on that one little point that I may have changed on a road to get better clearance over a pipe at a creek crossing. It's really cool.
Okay. What file types can now be uploaded from drone flights?
From drone flights, you don't direct. Well, let me phrase this. There is one type that directly comes into SITEOPS, and that's called a 3MX file. Bentley uses a software called context capture to process drone imagery, or again, imagery from a lot of different sources. You can bring that up and you can put that into SITEOPS. If you're going to use some of the Autodesk products, they have the ability to go out and create point files. You would make a surface from that and then bring that into SITEOPS. But you can use the context capture 3MX file, bring that directly into SITEOPS. And the really cool part is it'll extract the surface from it. We give you some tools to clean it up, and then when you push it to Lumen RT, all the area in your model around the site that you did not affect will go out just as you have it, and then show your nice new pretty design right in the middle of it.
Okay. What are the deliverables to clients? Can we import our title blocks into SITEOPS to make it look like our own?
SITEOPS is not a drafting tool. You would export SITEOPS via DWG, DGN, XML, or go directly to one of your favorite CAD tools to do that. It does not have texting, dimensions, borders, anything like that, because we all pretty much have great software, and most likely we're all pretty good at what software we use to do plan production. We're trying to supplement that by saying, you know what, we want to help you get to that point faster, so that when you are in there using the tools that are, again, great at what they do, you already have making sure that you have the right design to go forward.
Can you also design utility connections through SITEOPS?
There's a roundabout way. You cannot come in and just, like I did with grading, click a button and say, there we go. If I want to do utilities, I can draw them and say I have an existing road, or maybe I want to offset the center line of the roadway, and there's a water line. And then I can actually tell the system this is a water line, it's so much per foot or per meter, and if I change the length of that line, shorter, longer, move it, however, it'll automatically update the budget for that item. I just don't have, like the grade, I don't have a button that clicks and says, now do an optimized utility. No, that's not in there. But you do have the ability, once you get, again, to use the optimization to get a layout and then get a grading plan, then you can come back in and manually draw in utilities.
How long does it take to learn SITEOPS and become a good user?
SITEOPS is like any software. You're not going to be the greatest in the first project. That's why we have help. Most of our users know Chris Croucher, our head of support, because we encourage you to get a hold of support when you're doing the first 1 or 2 projects if you have any issues. But it's like anything. 3 or 4 projects in, you'll get really good. You just need to use it. If you only use it once a year, it's like any software, you probably don't remember half of it. It's not a hard one to get back in and get going, but you do have to keep using the software. So it's not a hard one to get along with. Like I said, the hardest thing I see people trying to do with SITEOPS is when they don't always have the experience as a designer to understand why and where you put parts of your design scenario. But if you know how to do that, then the software is pretty simple.
Okay. Could you explain how to model a pond with the properties?
Modeling a pond. Yeah, inside of modeling, again, we're not going, here's the deal. We're not modeling a pond. You're going to design it, model it beforehand. Inside SITEOPS, we're going to use it to draw. So if I need a specific pond to be a certain way, you can come in and control the riser height and depth. You can control the side slopes, the width of the berm, location, shape. You can do all that. And I can actually tell it I need a required volume, I need a required surface area. But again, as a designer, you need to know some of that coming in as to what exactly it is you are looking for from a design side. It just otherwise it's just going to go in and you tell it where it is. You draw a pond and hope it works. Sometimes that's good, as we most know. Sometimes that's bad. So, and again, this is some of those iterations of controlling the model. The first couple of times, as I start seeing what my runoff's going to be, things like that, then I would come in and start fine tuning that pond to be exactly what it should be. But yeah, you'll have to know. And most of it's designed based on surface area or a volume control.
Okay. Are there training videos on your YouTube page?
No, not on the YouTube page. If you go to communities.bentley.com, there is a site analysis area which has SITEOPS, and there are a bunch of quick start videos in there. And that way you can learn how to use SITEOPS and learn it through the free trial. But yeah, just communities.bentley.com, and that will get in there. Just look up SITEOPS, and you'll be able to find it.
Okay, those are all of the questions we have right now.
Perfect. I do want to thank everyone for attending today. And if you have any more questions, again, David at siteops.com, especially if you want that free trial, send me an email and we'll get you started.